Lady Mina sucks. Watcher of Realms is kicking off their first ever crossover event with the Dracula collaboration that is starting this Thursday, November 13th. And unfortunately, they are kicking it off with the limited banner for Mina. She will be the 11th limited hero to enter Watcher of Realms in the game's history, and unfortunately, she is the worst limited of all time. Full stop. Her and Gwendolyn for sure are the bottom two, but Gwendolyn cannot even give Mina a run for her money. Gwendolyn is at least unique, even though hyper niche. Mina is just bleh. I have got a lot of grievances with this character. She is very ill-conceived. She is very mediocre. I actually have 9 problems I am going to highlight. You can see I have some pretty extensive notes over here. I've worked on this video far too long, so if you appreciate the research done here and the point I am trying to prove, please make sure you give the video a thumbs up. That is how the developers know you think this is a problem, and I'll just skip to the conclusion now. She must be reworked. We need her to be rebalanced, otherwise everyone should just skip her banner, right? She's just completely not worth it unless you're just a collector and you want to get your hands on a copy of her. Because right now, she is just kind of nothing. So, like I said, I'm keying in on 9 key problems. I'm going to take you through them as fast as possible, but without a doubt, this is going to be a very nerdy video. I hope you take the time to make it to the end of the video and listen to all my points. If you have any other suggestions, comments, thoughts, whatever, let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you appreciate this content, please do subscribe to the channel. And do not worry, I'm trying to be constructive here. I'm not just trying to be negative. For every problem that I raise, it will be followed by a solutions slide where I go through some suggestions. They can take all the suggestions, they can take none of them. Hopefully they take at least one, or at least they listen, because she is very incomplete. Frankly, it's a little frustrating to see because she is extremely half-baked. She is an incomplete character. This is not the way the developers want to kick off their first ever collab event, so hopefully some changes are coming.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
So let us begin. Why Lady Mina sucks. A presentation by Fasti. Meta context and player impact. So as I said, Mina is the 11th limited hero to enter Watcher of Realms, and she is the worst we've ever seen, at least at the time of filming this. At this time, she still has 4 days until she debuts, so the developers have some time to try some new things out and try to fix her. But in her current state, indubitably, she is the worst we've ever seen. She is debuting this Thursday, November the 13th, as part of the Dracula crossover event. This is the first ever collaboration event in Watcher of Realms. I say collaboration because some people are pushing back since this is like free open IP. I think it's a collab. It's like a story. These are characters. They are bringing them into the game. It's like a direct collab. It's not like Hex, who's inspired by Heath Ledger's Joker, or Twyla, who's inspired clearly by Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. This is a direct crossover. They are taking these characters, bringing them into the game, and collaborating with the IP. The banner, like all limiteds, will run for 5 days, from Thursday until Monday. That is a very short window, and we don't know if she'll ever come back. We don't know if any of these Dracula characters will ever come back. She is guaranteed by your 200th summon if you have not gotten her up to that point. The banner will use rare summoning crystals, so this is a major investment for all players. People are always very wary of how to use these. Because she's a limited, we would expect her to be a premium quality unit, a top tier unit, or at least meta or usable or relevant in some aspect. We've seen that with all previous limiteds except for maybe Gwendolyn, but even for a while, Gwendolyn was relevant as a shielder in Gear Dungeon 1 at least when that first came out. As it stands now, I don't see Mina particularly excelling anywhere except for maybe on very young accounts with very limited options. So as I said, instead, she is easily the weakest limited we've ever seen, at least in her current form. Players are going to risk wasting their scarce summons for minimal payoff. And finally, it's going to be a massive disappointment given all the hype the developers are trying to create around this Dracula event if the kickoff banner, Mina's banner, is the fart that it is going to be at the time of filming this, if they don't change anything. So the core understanding, design intent versus reality. What were they going for? At least what do I think they were going for with Mina, and what did we end up with? Well, she was intended to be a dual role hybrid kind of unit. She was going to be like a Mari and a Nyx, something like that, right? She was going to be a debuffer with a lot of crowd control and a signature mark, special debuffs, and she was going to be a DPS. So when she's not ulting, she's this great spammer debuffer, and then when she ults, she does really big, piercing AoE damage. The concept sounds interesting, right? On paper. It's flexible. You could see how you might use it in certain contexts. Spellbane, the physical version of Matrix, seemed like an obvious choice. However, I've tested her in many, many places at this point. In Gear Raid 3, in Anti-Air Arena, in Gear Dungeon 1, in Gear Dungeon 2, and in Matrix. And she falls very short in every aspect, right? She doesn't serve either role well. In execution, all her mechanics are misaligned and they're weak. She's just underpowered. Her debuff uptime, her hit count, and her range, they don't support either one of her roles well. So she's not like this cool duo hybrid use unit. She's not this multifaceted hero. She's a hero that does two things poorly. Her damage typing and scaling conflict with her factions and faction synergies. She deals magic damage when she's not ulting, which makes no sense given her dual faction membership in Northerner and Piercer. The end result, as I said, is she underperforms in both her roles. She's a mediocre DPS and she is a mediocre support. Free heroes like Mari consistently will outperform her in her role. Mari's going to be more consistent and bring more utility. And when it comes to DPS, there are so many better piercing DPS options. When she is dealing damage, it's solid. It's not incredible, but it's definitely solid. But she's not dealing damage very often. Only when she ults. Her ult isn't cheap, and it only lasts for 10 seconds. So our final overarching thoughts before we get into it, problem by problem, the key thematic problems you're going to see across her kit. Things are going to keep coming up as I go problem to problem because there are just through lines of her weaknesses. She is misaligned in terms of her range and her attack geometry. This cripples her uptime as well because she's not hitting things as much as she should. She's constantly juggling damage types. She's switching between physical and magic. This synergizes very poorly in a lot of endgame content, even late game and some mid game content. Every mechanic, her marks, her slows, the way she gains rage from her exclusive artifact, they all have low duration and or low frequency. Next, her dual role identity fails. There's no mode right now that needs a mediocre debuffer and a mediocre DPS in the same form. You'd be far better off just bringing a good debuffer and a good DPS, or a great debuffer and a great DPS. Her numbers across the board are undertuned or unfinished. Simply put, she is underpowered. Next, this is the most disappointing to me. They clearly rushed her implementation and how they released her on the test server. Some information is just left off of her page. She has an unclear bond system. She has a very weak and, in my opinion, poorly thought through artifact design with her exclusive. Overall, she just feels like an unpolished beta kit. There are some nice ideas, but it doesn't feel like she was tested because she's super underpowered. Problem number one, poor range design. So if you don't know, Mina has that Mari, Aeon, Eloin, Laurel range. It's a 3x4 rectangle where she's offset. So she's not in the back middle, in the back row. She's in the middle of the second to back row, however you want to think of it. It's a very strange range for someone who's supposed to have DPS functionality. When she has a Piercer Lord, because she has dual faction as both a Northerner and a Piercer, if you're using her as a Piercer with a Lord, she gets an extra row right here. So it's a 5x3 with her offset from the back. All in all, it's functionally not good, right? It weakens her for sure. So like I said, this is the typical range of a support or debuffer mage, someone like Aeon, someone like Mari, someone like Laurel. This is not an appropriate range for a burst caster or a burst marksman, any kind of DPS. This range severely limits her reach during her ultimate phase. Once you get her awakening, she can have a longer range when she's in Dracula form when she ults. If you don't know how her ult works very quickly, you'll see she switches with the mirror behind her and she becomes Dracula. It's pretty cool. There you go. It just happened. And you can see without the extended range from her awakenings, I believe it comes with her A1. Without that, her ult range is even worse than her normal range. I shouldn't say even worse, but for a lot of things, it's weaker. It's going to be this circle around her with a 2-tile radius. It's not functionally a very good thing at all. And it does not play well in maps like in Arena at all. She's just pretty useless. She just feels like dead weight in a lot of aspects. If we go back, like I said, even with the Piercer Lord boost, her range only becomes a normal range for a normal single target Piercer or Marksman. That's not even to mention AoE units when she is an AoE unit when she's ulting, right? She's hitting 5 targets. But you can see even with that extra tile, if you ignore that back row, because that's not going to be used in tons of content, effectively it's a 3x4 with her in the back, which is the same as a range like Silas. However, if you're running Silas with the Piercer, he's getting a whole extra row here. So he effectively has a 5x3. Even in her best circumstance, she has a 4x3. And remember, when she's ulting, if you don't have that A1, she just has this silly little circle. And frankly, even if you do have the A1, it's just a bigger circle. It doesn't have a longer reach than your typical Piercer, especially with a Lord bonus. So it's just very, very irrelevant. In the end, her weird range leads to weird placements, which makes her even weaker than she already would be. And you're gonna see she's pretty weak. So what are some proposed solutions? Move her to the back row, just make her like a single target Piercer. Give her an AoE range, like a Nyx or like a Beelzebub would be really generous. Give her a 3x5, and then it's a 3x6 with the Piercer Lord with her set back. But at the very least, make the base situation that she's not only 2 tiles away, right? This is just so weak when she's trying to spam basics to have only these 2 rows in front of her. Really, really not good at all. If you could make some kind of changes to the range, if the devs could do that, they would keep her a lot more functional as both a debuffer and a DPS. It'd be a good step towards solving the problem. But even if they just change the range, that would be not enough. Problem number 2, I think this is the biggest problem, in my opinion. Lady Mina has a signature debuff or a signature mark. It is called Blood Sigil, and it's no good. It really isn't. So she does not put it out enough. We'll cover that again later, but she puts it out very inconsistently. It only lasts 2.5 seconds, and it's not hitting enough targets. But even if you could put it on everyone, what it actually does is fairly irrelevant. So it has a lot of potential, but the way they conceived it is weak. So from her second passive, during her ultimate, her attack shoots up. That's a separate thing. And additionally, all the damage she deals when she becomes the Dracula form during her ultimate, and all the damage the ally with the highest attack deals to any enemies under Blood Sigil. So any of the damage she deals in her Dracula form and the ally with the highest attack deals when they're hitting specifically units under Blood Sigil, that damage will be increased by 30%. Sounds pretty good, but remember, she doesn't put out Blood Sigil very consistently at all. It has a weak duration and it doesn't hit enough targets. And most importantly, these boosts, when she and the ally with the highest attack are hitting enemies under Blood Sigil, only last for the duration of the ultimate. And the ultimate only lasts 10 seconds. And it's pretty expensive at 900 costs. So it's very rare you're actually getting these damage boosts. And it's very weak. It's very, very weak. That's kind of all I can say. It works only during that 10-second ult window. It's going to boost damage by 30%, but only for those 10 seconds. So it has potential as like a unique mark, a unique debuff, a new way to boost damage, but it's so brief. And the mark itself is not going to stay up. It's 2.5 seconds, and she doesn't spam it with very good uptime at all. She doesn't hit enough units, and she doesn't hit enough quickly enough. The uptime is very low. The mark expires faster than her reapplication. It's too weak to justify a limited hero's central mechanic, and it really is like a key thing in her kit. And it's the thing that gave her potential to be really strong. It's what made me excited about her before I tested her, but it's just way too weak. The team DPS is barely increased by this because only 2 units, her and the ally with the highest attack, are getting the benefit, and it's so brief. It's during the ult, which lasts 10 seconds, and she ults maybe every 45 seconds to a minute. So it's like less than 25% of the time are 2 units getting this decent buff, right? This decent increase in their damage. So what are the solutions? First off, Blood Sigil needs to last longer. That's a theme throughout this. 2.5 seconds is really weak because she does not put it out consistently. She is a single target mage that occasionally, outside of her ult, can hit multiple targets, but it's just not good enough. Another change they can make, and when I make these proposals, I'm not saying all these things need to happen, I'm just saying some of them should happen, or things like this should happen. Another option, make it so 2 allies are getting the benefit, not just the ally with the highest attack and Mina, maybe the 2 allies with the highest attack. This still wouldn't be enough in my opinion because of the poor uptime on Blood Sigil, but at least it's something. Optionally, you could remove the ultimate restriction entirely from the damage boost. It doesn't have to be just during her ultimate. It's whenever a unit is under Blood Sigil and they're hit by Lady Mina or the ally with the highest attack, they're going to take more damage. They could also, and this is what I think they should do, this would be the best, lower the damage amplification to 15% or 20% or 10%, make it not 30%, assuming the devs think that's too overpowered, and then make it so all units are gonna deal extra damage to the enemies under Blood Sigil. But right now, it is a very weak, very silly mark. This is all it does. It's just a mark that units wear. It has a little weak synergy with her exclusive artifact, and that's basically it. Problem number 3, she is very ineffective as a debuffer, and she has very poor uptime on her debuffs. Her basic attacks hit only one target. You need her A3 for her to get a multi-target basic attack. She starts with just a single target basic, and it's not very good. She has got a quick base attack interval at 2.0 seconds, so with gear you can get that down to like 1.0 seconds, maybe even 0.9 seconds, but that's still not enough because only every 5th basic attack she's going to hit multiple targets, and when she hits multiple targets, it's only 5 enemies. Outside of her ultimate where she can hit 10 targets, the best she's ever doing is hitting 5 enemies like 1 time every 5 seconds, and all these things only last 2.5 seconds. So it's really, really poor. If we look at the A3, this would require 4 copies of her, right? You're not putting soul stones into her unless the kit changes in a crazy way. This is when she can hit 3 targets simultaneously with her basics, and even still, 3 targets, it's not cutting it. She needs to hit 5 targets as a base, and then her enhanced need to hit a lot more, something like that. It's super, super underpowered. Once you guys get her and test her out, if that happens and she doesn't change, you will see. So the enhanced hit is going to trigger every 5 hits, which is about 5 seconds. This is going to leave huge gaps in coverage, like the uptime is very weak. She can't maintain her slows or marks on groups consistently, because even when she does the enhanced hits, it's only going to be 5 targets. And then remember, even when she ults and she can hit 10 targets, up to 10 targets with her Blood Sigil and immobilized state, which is basically like a stun, a full slow where they can't move at all, they're stuck in place, this only lasts 10 seconds. It's just not good enough. It's really, really not good enough. She really fails to function as a good crowd control unit or a good debuffer. She really, really does. The ways to fix this: fix the trigger of those enhanced basics from being every 5 to maybe every 3. That would kind of fix things with the 2.5 second duration. Even still, she's only hitting 5 targets, but at least it would happen a lot more. The enhanced basics could be buffed. I think they should be. When she does it every 5 turns or 3 turns, whatever they want to change it to, whatever they want to stick with, instead of hitting 5 units, maybe she hits 7 enemies, 10 enemies. Right now, I just don't think 5 cuts it at all. The biggest thing I would say, you could increase the duration of her core debuffs. 2.5 seconds is okay for a slow if you're putting it out consistently, someone like a Mari who's putting it out constantly. But if you're not, right, because she's not, it's all single target except for the enhanced hits and the ultimate, I don't think 2.5 seconds is enough. So then maybe make it 5 seconds. Certainly the Blood Sigil needs to last at least 5 seconds. The Blood Sigil uptime is terrible. You'll see this immediately. It is so weak. Finally, they could make it so her enhanced basic attacks, the one she does every 5 attacks, you could make it so they prioritize unmarked targets. This would be relevant with her passive over here, the second passive, where once you get one of the Draculas, we don't know which, we'll cover that later. Big problem in her kit, that this is just total gray area, they just didn't include it. But once you unlock this bond skill, somehow she can trigger those enhanced basic attacks back to back, but that's useless since she doesn't deal any damage outside of her ultimate unless it's guaranteeing they're gonna hit new targets. Because if she's just gonna hit the same 5 targets twice, it doesn't matter. So we need this to have some priority that it focuses on units not under Blood Sigil or not slowed. Something like that. So let's go to problem number 4. She's got a very weak ultimate debuff design. So the immobilize along with the Blood Sigil. Right now, a 10-second immobilize, which is a 100% slow, so they just cannot move. Their movement speed is to 0. They're stuck in place, right? That's pretty strong, but that's not needed in like any content. So it's cool, but it'd be much better to keep spamming those crowd control debuffs over and over and over and reapplying them. It will enable some cultist synergies, right? When they're dealing more damage to units under crowd control, but she's not even a cultist, so it's not going to be that relevant for a lot of things. And it's a very small radius. The 2-tile circle around her, maybe not very small, but this is irrelevant for a lot of important content. Imagine a Gear Raid 1. This wouldn't be reaching the further column of the 3 columns in front of the wall. So really not good. And then most importantly, the Blood Sigil. Yes, this is cool during the ultimate, but it's only 10 seconds. So this is the moment you can guarantee Blood Sigils out and that extra damage is being dealt, and it's only 10 seconds. So I just don't think these debuffs are good enough, and they certainly don't last long enough to make them that relevant. And given the weird 2-tile radius circle around her, I just don't think it's important. Like I said, I think that duration on the immobilize is overkill. I think because they think the immobilize is so strong, that's why they made the duration of her ultimate so short. I would rather them just ditch the immobilize, make it just a normal slow, maybe a 75% slow. Her base slow is a 50% slow. Make it a 75% slow and make her spam it. Every single hit is going to slow 10 units. Then it's pretty interesting, right? It has a limited reach and it has a target cap of 10. It just doesn't matter. She loses her normal range while ulting. Her weak range becomes even weaker, in my opinion, assuming you're using a Piercer Lord. Here's a little typo here, but this should say feels flashy. Yes, immobilizing units for 10 seconds is kind of cool, but there's very limited strategic value. And I think the developers think because they're giving us a 10-second immobilize that this is so good, we don't need other stuff, but it just undermines all the other pieces of the ult. And the ult is relevant for so much of the kit, and it's so weak, maybe because of this. Finally, it really misses the mark on any reliable AoE crowd control. Yes, 10 units for 10 seconds is good during the ult, but her ult only lasts 10 seconds, and it's 900 cost, and outside of that, her slows are so unreliable, she's not someone you could lean on as a crowd control unit. So here are my solutions. I've touched on a few of them. Remove the immobilize. It's strong, but we don't need it. Give us just a stronger slow, bump it from 50% to 75%, and have every hit put slow on 10 units or 12 units or 15 units constantly. Just keep refreshing it. That is good enough. And most importantly, make the ult last longer. 10 seconds is just nothing. Or you can keep the 10-second window, but make the slow and the blood sigil so much more consistent outside of that. So if that is a standard multi-target on the A1, if that is far longer durations, if it's both, do that. Focus the ultimate utility on physical vulnerability uptime, not immobilization. And that will make sense right now as we transition into the next problem. Problem number 5. Her physical vulnerability, which is an important part of her kit, she's got a strong physical vulnerability, has terrible uptime. Really, really, really bad uptime. So let's look at it right now. From her first passive, whenever she deals damage from her enhanced basic attack, which remember can hit only 5 targets, or when she deals damage as the Phantom Count Dracula, which when she actually deals damage, not when she does the blood sigil and the immobilize state, when she deals damage, it's only 5 targets. When she does either of those two things, she's gonna inflict a pretty good multi-target physical damage vulnerability. Increased physical damage taken 25%. That's as strong as we see outside a single target. This is good, but it only lasts 3 seconds, and she puts it out on very few units very infrequently. So think of it this way. When she does those enhanced basics every 5-6 seconds, depending on the build, yes, she'll put this out, but only for 3 seconds. So that would be 60% uptime if she is hitting the enhanced basic attack every 5 seconds. And that's probably the best case scenario for a lot of people. And even still, it's only landing on 5 targets. Proper AoE content, everything can't just be 5 targets with 60% uptime here and there with poor durations. And then during her ultimate, remember, it's got that weird range, right? So yes, the unit she's hitting, they're gonna have 100% uptime, assuming she keeps hitting the same units, but she's only hitting 5 targets in that weird range. So imagine there were 10 units in that range, the one she's immobilizing, she's only hitting half of them. So and only for 10 seconds. We have other units like Twin Fiend who do a way better job, right? And he's already considered underpowered. So this right here is a big, big problem, in my opinion. It's very, very weak. And it should be a key part of her kit. It only affects Typhon. So to recap, it lasts 3 seconds. That's not great. It only affects up to 5 targets. We definitely don't like that. The duration is too short to sync with her enhanced basic window. If it was 5 seconds and then she was getting the enhanced basic every 5 seconds, then we'd be talking, but it's not even close to that. For some people, it's gonna be like 50% uptime if they're slightly slower. Very bad. It's gonna lead to a very small marginal increase in team-wide damage due to the tough range and the low uptime, and it feels like a really big wasted potential moment, right? This could be really good. If she could maintain 100% uptime, then we'd be talking, but she's not even close, and she's not hitting enough units, even if she had that 100% uptime. So solutions, I think at a base, the duration needs to increase maybe 5 seconds so it syncs up better with the enhanced basics. I think 7 seconds would be better. During the ultimate, shorten the hit interval. I have a lot of issues with this ultimate. I hate the ultimate in her kit. I hate Blood Sigil and I hate her ultimate. But her ultimate is just 5 hits, right? It lasts 10 seconds and she can put out hits every 2 seconds. So it's 5 hits over 10 seconds. That's just not enough. So have it hit every single second. Ensure the vulnerability aligns with all the damage windows, however they end up making her work, assuming they change her. And then to conclude, these would be not overpowered changes and they would keep her ability, that her debuffing relevant, the way she's buffing her allies relevant without overpowering them and overpowering her kit and so on and so on. Because right now her kit is just weak. Problem number 6, insufficient damage output and poor role identity. So this one is pretty easy to explain, guys. Her base kit, outside of her ultimate, she deals magic damage. During her ultimate, physical damage, piercing physical damage. This is a crazy disconnect. Her factions, North Throne and Piercer, are strictly physical damage factions, basically. Almost unilaterally with all the units that are actually good in those factions. Yet, she deals magic damage in all situations outside of her ultimate. And to be honest, it's not the biggest deal in the world because she cannot deal any damage outside of her ultimate. Her damage output is so weak when she's not ulting. And now, remember, her ult is so freaking weak. It only amounts to 5 total ticks of damage. And it's not even a proper AoE. Compare it to a Razak, a Kai, a freaking Fenris. It doesn't matter. It's not even close. Her ult, yes, the hits themselves are fairly strong. They're not OP. They're just pretty strong. It's 5 hits over 10 seconds. That's it. If you do the math, it's 220% damage per hit. It's 5 hits over 10 seconds. So over an entire 10 seconds, she's doing 1100% damage. Let's take one moment to compare that to Razak, who's considered a very mediocre AoE piercer, right? His ultimate, cheaper costs, because with skills it goes down to 800, and then with the skills as well, the multiplier goes up to 1000. So she's dealing 1100% damage over 10 seconds with a 900 ult cost. He's dealing 1000% damage, slightly less, over just the time it takes for the animation, and then he can start building rage again for a cheaper ult cost. So he's just strictly better. And he's got a way better range, obviously. I mean, look at that. And that's not even counting with the piercer bonus. It's not even close. It's a mess, guys. It's a mess. So her damage is not enough damage. It's only during the ult. Her burst window is way too short. It's not hitting enough targets. By the way, I didn't even mention that. Razak can hit like 10 or 12 targets, whatever it is. She's hitting 5 targets, and it's way too infrequent. It's just not good. So to conclude, the entire hybrid conceit of Mina is a failure. She's weak as a DPS. She is weak as a debuffer. Now, how can you fix this problem here with the weak ult, the weak damage output? Convert all her damage to physical damage, so at least her non-ult damage is something. It will still be weak, but at least it's something. Then please make the ult last longer and or be a lot more frequent. So make it last 12 seconds, but make it a tick of damage for 220% every second. So it's 12 ticks of damage. If you think that's crazy, it's not. 220 times 12, we're talking 2,640% damage. Nothing about that is even close to overpowered. She'd still be weaker than Nyx, but at least it would be something. Or make her ult way longer. Make it 20 seconds and have it tick every 2 seconds. I'd rather it stay short and just tick more frequently. Frankly, I'd rather the multipliers be boosted too. All in all, the damage is just very underwhelming. The range on the damage is very underwhelming. I don't like any of it. You gotta bring her in line with other DPS and other limited heroes, right? She's not even close. All right, problem number 7, only 3 more, home stretch. I hope you're still with me. If you are, let me know in the comments. Her bond skills are just not written correctly. So she's very interesting. She's the first hero in the history of Watcher of Realms to have 2 different bond partners, right? She's got a bond skill with Count Dracula and a bond skill with Vlad Dracula. So she's got a different bond skill with each Dracula. However, and this is just disappointing to see, like, I'm trying to be constructive here. I'm not trying to rail on the devs, but I gotta say, they don't even list who gives what bond skill. It doesn't say acquire Count Dracula, acquire Vlad Dracula. These are just here. With the other ones, it says acquire Lady Mina, obtain Lady Mina. So we know she shares it with them, but they just didn't write it. So this is a very short one, but it'd be a really easy fix. Let us know how to unlock these bond skills. These bond skills are also weak, and we're about to talk about that. But I just think stuff like this creates confusion. And I think it feels unprofessional for us to have to present this as content creators on the test server. I think for the devs to load this in to the test server, everything just feels rushed. This is like a high profile, this is a big deal collab. They're clearly putting a lot of money into it. You guys saw all the ads, they're hyping it up, but then they're just like, it feels rushed, like it feels incomplete, like they're not putting the proper effort into it. So we don't even know how this works. How do you fix this? Easiest fix, and they're gonna do this, how could they not? Just write it, you know, just put it in there. So this one says, obtain the hero Count Dracula to unlock the following. Obtain the hero Vlad Dracula to unlock the following, or vice versa. Just do that. It prevents confusion, prevents people from like going in blind and thinking one thing and another thing happening. Just fix that. Problem number 8. The bond skill effects themselves are underpowered. So let's start with Nightfall's Embrace. This one is pretty cool. It goes hand in hand with her also pretty cool second passive. If you've never heard me talk about her second passive, Crimson Oath, before, we talked about the end of this with the Blood Sigil, but the first part is very unique. She's gonna gain half the current attack of the ally on the field with the highest attack. Current attack means all the attack they have from their base stats, then all the way that attack is boosted from gear and artifacts and effects, and then every other way that attack is boosted once the ally with the highest attack is deployed on the field. So Lord skills, inspiration, invigoration, this, that, and the other. This is very cool, right? So she can get 15,000, 20,000 attack based on who the ally is and how you've built them. We like that. That is very strong, and that is enough. However, this first passive tries to fill in the rest, and I think it falls short. So she can also gain not just the attack from that ally with the highest attack, but also some of their crit damage. However, I just don't think this is enough. 20% of the current crit damage is not enough. You're not really going to see units with more than 350% crit damage. Let's just call it 300% for easy math. 20% of that is 60% crit damage. The whole point of this passive, in my opinion, and then unlocking this bond skill, is it allows you to build her as a full debuffer, spammer, very high attack speed, stuff like that. And then you can lean on this and this for the attack bonus and the crit damage. This you can certainly lean on for the attack bonus, but this is very weak for the crit damage, right? Assuming you didn't build anything extra on her, she's going to go from base 150% to 210%. If this was 40%, we'll go into the suggestions in a second, 50%, 60%, it would be a lot better. It'd be really, really good. It'd be nice if you could just build her with crit rate and then as a spammer, right? As a really speedy debuffing unit. I think that's what they intended, but 20% just doesn't cut it. This isn't the biggest problem, but it's a problem in my opinion. The other passive I think is probably the bigger problem. So you can see every 5 basic attacks, when you trigger that enhanced basic, assuming they don't change how that works, you can trigger it twice. So you're going to do 2 enhanced basics at a time. The damage is insignificant. She cannot deal damage if she's not ulting, like not at all. So basically it's 2 opportunities to put out Blood Sigil and slow on a multi-target. But remember, unless there's some way that the second hit is prioritizing landing these hits on units not already under Blood Sigil, it's nothing, because this move is just to apply debuffs. It's just to apply the mark. And it's still only going to hit 5 enemies. So it doesn't matter. It's just like nothing. In practice, you can see it. It's just nothing. And it's disappointing. Neither of these things in practice lead to like a boost in her actual performance. I guess if you entirely ignored crit damage and you needed her as a DPS, the 60% crit damage would be something, but we all know crit damage is insanely underpowered in this game to begin with. A 60% boost in crit damage on a unit you're not going to build crit damage on is not relevant. It's really not. And none of this stuff fixes her range, her uptime, hit count, regardless, right? It barely affects her role as both a DPS or a utility spammer. So how do we fix this? Make that crit damage inheritance from the first passive, the first bond skill, Nightfall's Embrace, bring it to at least 40% of the ally with the highest attacks crit damage, if not 50 or higher. Then the second bond skill passive, Threads of Fate, have that second enhanced basic prioritize unmarked enemies. And also, in general, please, I told you I'd keep hearkening back to certain things. Please make Blood Sigil last longer, because it's a key part of her kit, even if it's weak, and it never lasts long enough. The uptime on it is atrocious. It's never on anyone. It's terrible. If you can make these changes, both bonds would feel a lot more relevant. They'd make an actual impact. The final problem number 9, we can go pretty quick here. Her exclusive artifact is no good. So she has that very cool thing from her second normal passive where she gets a chunk of the ally with the highest attack's current attack. What was built upon that ally, what it's getting from all the buffs and boosts on the field. This over here is not that. This is just going to increase her attack by 30%. That is going to scale off of her base attack. And her base attack, I haven't mentioned it yet, but let me tell you, it is terrible. 2,324. That is nothing. It is nothing, right? So getting 30% more of that is like less than 700 more attack. It doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't. So that first part could just be thrown out. If they really wanted to juice it up and make it strong, it could be 30% of her current attack. That would be very relevant. But as it stands now, that is just unneeded, because you're not going to build attack on her, because you're going to be getting attack from this, right? So it's useless. The next part is just the last thing that I had to mention because I hate Blood Sigil. Upon the death of an enemy inflicted with Blood Sigil, restores the hero's rage by 2%. Like I said, the uptime on Blood Sigil is terrible. The amount of units that get inflicted with it because of her poor multi-target is terrible. So very few units are under Blood Sigil outside of the ultimate, and the ultimate only lasts 10 seconds. This effect, that very generous 2% rage, can only be triggered one time every 5 seconds. So if it's only really happening during the ultimate, the best case scenario is it's happening twice in 10 seconds. So over those 10 seconds, you're gaining 4% rage. That means, if you think of it by the second, passively, or however you want to phrase it in your mind, she is getting 0.4% rage per second. This isn't nothing, but it's also not something. And it's never going to happen like that. Because with that cooldown, this is implying that as soon as those 5 seconds are up, someone else dies at that moment. In practice, this will trigger maybe every 10 seconds. It might be like every 15 seconds. Imagine it was every 15 seconds. I mean, 2% every 15 seconds. It is nothing. It's like barely over a percentage per second. It's so underpowered. It sucks so much. I mean, why would you ever use this over a Nightmare Samsara? You just wouldn't. You absolutely wouldn't. And I make that point here. It's just outclassed by a generic legendary artifact like Nightmare Samsara. It relies on Blood Sigil, which is terrible to trigger. It's way too infrequent. It's no good. Easy to fix. If they want to stick with the attack thing, make it scale off of her current attack, so when she's ulting, her attack gets even higher. That'd be really cool. Make the rage restoration 3 to 5%, not 2%. 2% is way too low. And if you have to have a cooldown, I don't think you need a cooldown because so few units are under Blood Sigil, but if you have to have a cooldown, make it 1 or 2 seconds, not 5 seconds. Just remove that pointless 5-second lockout. It just undermines the entire artifact. All right, this was a long video, but you made it to the end. I tried not to be too negative. At parts, it was impossible not to be, because I think Mina is one of the better looking characters in the game. I think the idea is very clever to have her fulfill 2 roles, to have her get stats from other allies so she doesn't have to lean on them. She's sucking it away from other allies. That's very vampiric, right? That's pretty cool. But in practice, we have a fart, a very pretty fart, because this kit sucks. She's the worst exclusive we have ever seen. So my concluding thoughts. She feels like the most incomplete, half-baked limited to ever enter this game. She reminds me of like a Malric or a Lynx, units that are just strictly and utterly mediocre, but those units were just throwaway normal units. They were not limited limiteds, right? She's a limited hero that's part of a limited event. So she needs to be at least relevant for something. She can't just be like a pretty collector's item. I don't think so, at least. I mean, I think I'm confident if that's all she ends up being, Moonton's not going to make any money off of this, right? And we're all going to be disappointed. Next point, she is underpowered. I think I've proven that. Or at least I've yelled about it. And she really feels no roles effectively. There's no place in the game right now where you're like, oh, well, at least she's going to be great there. It doesn't exist. She synergizes very poorly with her faction when compared to cheaper and already available options. You know, if you want AoE DPS, just use Maul, right? Like, why would you use her? If you want a crowd control unit, just use Mari. These are like basically free units. I mean, Mari literally is free. You get her on day 3 of playing this game for logging in. To wrap it up, she must be reworked or rebalanced before release in 4 days. If the devs want anyone at all besides collectors to pull for her, this has to happen. A change has to happen. Let me know your thoughts below, guys. If you made it to the end of the video, please do subscribe, like the video so the devs see it, and comment your thoughts so the devs read those. Thank you. Share with your mother. I've been Fastidious, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.